Change is the only constant in life, but how we respond to it is where our true power lies. Change is something we all experience, whether we like it or not. Every day, life throws new challenges our way, a career shift, personal growth, unexpected setbacks. Yet, no matter how many times we face change, it can still feel overwhelming. We often resist it, struggle against it, or even avoid it altogether because the unknown is daunting. But here's the powerful truth. What if you could not only cope with change, but master it? Imagine looking at every transition in your life, whether big or small, as an opportunity for growth. What if you could turn those moments of uncertainty into stepping stones towards something better? In The Master of Change, Brad Stulberg shows us that change doesn't need to be feared. Instead, it's something we can learn to embrace, adapt to, and even leverage for greater success and fulfillment. This book isn't just about surviving change, it's about thriving through it. Welcome to Book Play, where we break down powerful books into practical lessons that can completely shift your mindset. If you're ready to change the way you think about change, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Let's dive into this life-changing journey together. Meet Liam. He's 27 years old, a talented product manager working at a growing tech company. From the outside, his life seems to be moving in all the right directions. Steady career growth, a respectable salary, and a reputation as someone who gets things done. Friends describe him as ambitious, reliable, and always on the go. But under the surface, Liam feels like he's quietly falling apart. It started slowly. He was once deeply passionate about building things, systems, solutions, ideas. He loved the challenge, the creativity, the possibility. But now, every day feels like survival. Meetings blur together, tasks pile up, deadlines never stop. Liam wakes up already tired and goes to bed with a racing mind. His calendar is full, but his heart is empty. At first, he told himself it was temporary, just a busy quarter, just a stretch of hard work before things calmed down. But they never did. The pace only accelerated. And now, even on weekends, even during the few quiet moments he manages to steal, Liam can't switch off. His thoughts follow him everywhere. Even when he's not working, he feels the pressure to be working. The worst part? He doesn't even know what he's working toward anymore. There was a time when Liam had dreams beyond the corporate world. He once considered starting his own company, or moving into social impact work, or even taking a sabbatical to travel and reset, but those ideas have all drifted into the background. Now his life feels reactive, like he's constantly responding to problems, constantly in motion, but never in control. Like the only way to stay afloat is to keep running, even if he no longer remembers why he started. His body feels the strain too. His sleep is shallow and restless. His energy crashes mid-afternoon. He skips meals, skips workouts. Small things set him off. A delayed email, a typo in a report, a missed call. And then the guilt kicks in. Why can't I just handle this? What's wrong with me? He doesn't talk about it much. When friends ask how things are going, he smiles and says, "Busy, but good." It's easier than explaining the truth, that he's tired of pretending, that he's starting to feel like a passenger in his own life, that every day feels like walking a tightrope, and one misstep might unravel everything. One Thursday night, after a 12-hour workday, Liam shuts his laptop and just sits in silence. The apartment is quiet. He stares out the window into the city, all those lights, all those people, all going somewhere, and he feels something strange. Not sadness exactly, but emptiness, like he's become detached from his own story. Out of habit, he picks up his phone and scrolls, social media, work emails, news alerts, the usual noise, but then something stops him. A blog article titled, "You're not burned out, you're in a crisis of meaning." He clicks. The article talks about how burnout isn't just about doing too much, it's about doing too much of the wrong things. It speaks about disconnection, emotional exhaustion, and the fear of change. It describes exactly what Liam is going through. Not just fatigue, but the deeper sense of misalignment, of drifting away from what matters. At the end of the article, a book recommendation appears. The Master of Change by Brad Stulberg. Liam pauses. He's heard of the book before. A podcast guest mentioned it. A friend recommended it months ago, but tonight the title lands differently. The Master of Change. It feels like a message meant just for him. He looks it up. The subtitle reads, "How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You." That hits hard. Because Liam knows deep down that something inside him is changing. He just hasn't had the language to describe it, or the tools to face it. He scrolls through the reviews, words like adaptability, resilience, identity, meaning. He doesn't need more productivity hacks. He needs something deeper, something to help him navigate this quiet, confusing transformation he's going through. Without overthinking, he clicks "Order Now." When the book arrives, he doesn't tear into it right away. He leaves it on his desk for a day or two, almost like he's building the courage to begin. Then, one Sunday afternoon, in a rare quiet moment, he picks it up and opens the first page. The words hit him immediately, not in a dramatic way, but with a quiet truth. The author isn't trying to inspire through hype. He's offering clarity about how change works, how identity shifts, and how discomfort can actually be a sign that we're growing. For the first time in months, Liam doesn't feel like he's broken. He feels understood. And more importantly, he feels hopeful. The Master of Change by Brad Stulberg isn't just a book about navigating change. It's a guide to becoming someone who can grow through it, with resilience, with intention, and with peace of mind. In this powerful work, Stulberg challenges the conventional idea that change is something we either conquer or resist. Instead, he introduces a different approach to develop what he calls rugged flexibility. It's the ability to stay grounded in who you are while adapting to whatever life throws your way. This balance between stability and adaptability becomes the foundation for real growth. Most of us are taught to aim for control, to build routines, systems, and identities that feel solid and predictable. But life doesn't work that way. Jobs change, relationships shift, our goals evolve, and if we cling too tightly to the old version of ourselves, we risk being crushed when life inevitably moves on. Stulberg draws on psychology, philosophy, science, and real-life stories to show that uncertainty isn't the enemy. It's a constant companion. And once we stop fighting it, we open ourselves up to something more powerful than control, transformation. The book offers a model for personal growth that doesn't rely on avoiding discomfort or forcing positive thinking. Instead, it invites us to be honest, to explore how change affects our identity, our sense of purpose, and the stories we tell ourselves. What makes this book especially relevant today is that it doesn't pretend change is easy. It acknowledges the fear, the loss, the disorientation, but it also shows us a way through. A way that doesn't just help us bounce back, but allows us to bounce forward into a deeper, more authentic version of who we are becoming. For people like Liam, and maybe for you, the Master of Change is more than a set of ideas. It's a mirror. It reflects back the struggle of not knowing what's next and offers a path toward navigating that unknown with strength and clarity. And the best part? The lessons aren't abstract. They're deeply practical. Step by step, the book invites us to shift our mindset, build new habits of thought, and grow into a version of ourselves that's not just surviving change, but growing because of it. In the next section, we'll walk alongside Liam as he begins to apply the principles of the book to his own life. Each chapter offers a lens through which he, and all of us, can view change not as a threat, but as a doorway. Lesson number 1. Be strong and flexible at the same time. Real strength isn't about staying rigid or pretending everything is fine. It's about learning how to stay grounded while still being able to move. In The Master of Change, Brad Stulberg introduces a powerful idea he calls rugged flexibility. It means holding on to what really matters, your values, your purpose, your core, while still being open enough to adapt when life doesn't go according to plan. In today's world, that skill isn't just helpful, it's essential. For Liam, this concept was a wake-up call. Up until now, he had been living with the belief that being strong meant pushing harder, staying consistent, keeping everything under control. He thought success was about structure and discipline, about sticking to a system and never backing down. But slowly, that mindset was starting to break him. As life became more unpredictable, as work shifted and responsibilities grew, he found himself getting more anxious, more frustrated, and more exhausted trying to keep everything together. Then, one evening, as he read The Master of Change, he came across the chapter on rugged flexibility. At first, the phrase didn't quite make sense to him. How could someone be both rugged and flexible? Weren't those opposites? But as he kept reading, something clicked. It wasn't about giving up control. It was about understanding that life is full of movement. And if you stay too rigid, you're more likely to snap under pressure. But if you can bend, while staying anchored in what truly matters, you become much more capable of handling what comes your way. Liam began to look at his life differently. He started asking himself new questions. Instead of, how do I keep everything exactly the same? He asked, what do I truly need to hold on to? And what can I let go of? He realized that his values, like creativity, growth, and doing meaningful work, were still strong. But the routines, the goals, and even the version of success he had been chasing, those things could change. At work, this helped him shift from being perfection-focused to purpose-focused. He started speaking up when projects needed to change course. He gave his team more room to adapt. And in his personal life, he allowed himself more rest, more space, more kindness, not because he was slacking off, but because he was learning to adjust with intention. He wasn't letting go of discipline, he was learning how to aim it better. If you're listening to this and feeling like Liam, stuck between holding it all together and wanting to breathe again, try this. Take a moment and ask yourself what your core values are right now. Not your long-term goals, not what others expect of you, but the few things that matter most to you in this season. Then, give yourself permission to adjust everything else. Your routines, your timelines, your methods. Let them evolve. Because when you stay strong in your values, but flexible in your approach, change stops being something you fear and becomes something you can grow through. This shift marked the beginning of a new chapter for Liam. He didn't feel lost anymore. He felt grounded. And for the first time in a while, he felt ready to move forward. But as he kept reading, another realization surfaced. It wasn't just his routines or habits that needed to shift. It was something deeper, his identity. The version of himself he had built, the ambitious overachiever, always in control, was no longer working. And that raised a difficult but important question. If who you were no longer fits, who are you now? That's where we're headed next. Lesson number 2, you're not stuck. Being one person. Change doesn't just affect your schedule, your work, or your habits. It affects your identity. And one of the hardest parts of personal growth is realizing that the version of yourself you've always been may not be the one you need to be next. In The Master of Change, Brad Stulberg offers a powerful truth. Your identity is not fixed. It's not a label or a box or a final answer. It's a process, one that grows, shifts, and evolves as you do. Liam had never questioned who he was. For years, he saw himself as the high performer, the responsible one, the person who could be counted on to deliver. That identity shaped his decisions. It guided his habits. And for a while it worked. But lately, that version of himself had started to feel out of sync. He wasn't sure why. He just knew that something felt heavy, like he was trying to live out a story that no longer matched who he was becoming. The book helped him see what was happening. Stulberg explains that during times of change, especially stressful or uncertain change, our sense of self can feel threatened. We hold tighter to our old identities, even if they're no longer serving us, because they give us a feeling of stability. But if we don't let those identities evolve, we risk getting stuck. Not because we're not capable, but because we're afraid of letting go of who we used to be. For Liam, that realization was both painful and freeing. He could finally name what he had been feeling, the discomfort of outgrowing himself. The person who used to thrive under pressure now needed rest. The one who used to chase external success now longed for inner alignment. The identity he had built with so much effort was no longer who he wanted to be. So he gave himself permission to update the story. He stopped asking, "What's wrong with me?" and started asking, "Who am I becoming?" That simple shift changed everything. He no longer felt like he was failing. He realized he was transforming. And that transformation wasn't a breakdown, it was a breakthrough. He didn't need to abandon everything from his past. He just needed to make room for something new. He allowed himself to explore interests he had ignored, to set boundaries he used to feel guilty about, to imagine a version of success that included more joy, more presence, and more purpose. And the more he accepted that identity as a living thing, not a final label, the more energy and clarity he felt. He stopped trying to get back to who he was before things got hard. Instead, he focused on growing into the next version of himself, one that could move with life, not against it. If you're listening and feeling the weight of an outdated identity, ask yourself this: what parts of me are still true? And what parts have I outgrown? You don't have to throw everything away. You're allowed to keep the pieces that still serve you, and gently let go of the rest. Growth means change, and change means letting yourself evolve. Not suddenly, not perfectly, but honestly. As Liam embraced this shift, he didn't feel like he was losing himself. He felt like he was finally catching up to who he really was, and that gave him a quiet strength, a new sense of possibility. But with that new identity came a new kind of challenge. Because as you begin to grow, life doesn't instantly get easier. In fact, things can feel even more uncomfortable at first. So the next question became, what do you do when growth feels hard? When change isn't just emotional, but physical, tiring, and uncomfortable? That's what Liam had to face next, and where the next lesson begins. Lesson number 3, discomfort helps you grow. Once you begin to grow, things don't immediately get easier. They often get harder. You've stepped out of the familiar, let go of what no longer fits. But what lies ahead isn't clear yet. This space in between, where you're not who you were, but not yet who you're becoming, can feel shaky, uncertain, even painful. Brad Stulberg calls this productive disequilibrium. It's the discomfort that signals change is happening. And learning how to stay in it, without rushing to escape, is where the real transformation takes place. Liam felt this deeply. After loosening his grip on an outdated identity and embracing rugged flexibility, he started making small but meaningful changes. He worked with more intention. He started setting boundaries. He explored new creative interests outside of work. But almost immediately, the discomfort set in. His routines no longer felt automatic. He second-guessed himself more. Some days the uncertainty made him want to go back to his old ways, even if they were draining, just because they were familiar. That's the tricky thing about growth. Even when you know it's right, it still hurts. Reading The Master of Change, Liam came across the concept of productive disequilibrium, the idea that some level of instability is not only natural, but necessary for meaningful progress. Change requires stress, Not too much to overwhelm you, but just enough to stretch you beyond your comfort zone. And the key isn't to eliminate that tension. It's to stay with it, learn from it, and use it as a signal that you're exactly where you need to be. This gave Liam a new lens. Instead of asking, "How do I get out of this discomfort?" he began to ask, "What is this discomfort teaching me?" He realized the unease he felt wasn't a sign that something was wrong. It was a sign that something was shifting. His nervousness before setting new boundaries wasn't weakness, it was growth. His doubt when trying new approaches at work wasn't failure, it was learning. He also started practicing what Stulberg recommends, taking on challenges that were just slightly beyond his current abilities, not so big that they paralyzed him, but not so easy that they kept him stagnant. He began approaching his discomfort like a muscle, something to train slowly and consistently. And day by day, he started to feel more capable inside the unknown. For you, this might mean doing something that stretches you, like having a hard conversation, trying something new, or simply sitting with a difficult emotion without running from it. If it feels uncomfortable, it doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It might mean you're finally on the right one. Remember, growth doesn't always feel good in the moment, but if you stay with it, if you trust the process, you start to see how the discomfort becomes your teacher. For Liam, this was a breakthrough. He no longer saw discomfort as a problem to solve. He saw it as proof that he was evolving, and that gave him the strength to keep going, not just when things were exciting, but when they were hard. But as he learned to stay with the discomfort, another challenge surfaced. He realized how often he tried to manage that discomfort by controlling everything around him, micromanaging his time, forcing decisions, or trying to predict every outcome, and it never worked. So he had to ask himself another question, one we all face when change gets hard. What if the path forward isn't about controlling more, but letting go? That's where the next lesson begins. Lesson number 4, focus on what you can control. When change feels overwhelming, the instinct is often to try to control every part of the situation. Liam found himself caught in this very trap more times than he could count. He thought that if he could just plan every detail perfectly, anticipate every challenge, and micromanage every small decision, he could avoid the stress and chaos that seemed to follow him. At work, he would stay late trying to predict outcomes that no one could foresee. At home, his mind would race with worries about what might go wrong, replaying worst-case scenarios over and over. This cycle left him exhausted and frustrated, and deep down, he knew it wasn't sustainable. The Master of Change offered him a profound insight. While he could not control every event or outcome, he always had control over how he responded to those events. And learning to focus intentionally on what was truly within his power, not on the endless unknowns, was one of the most powerful ways to regain calm, clarity, and momentum. For Liam, this wasn't just a new idea. It became a practical strategy. Instead of trying to orchestrate every second of his day and every interaction, he began to identify specific, actionable steps he could take right now that actually mattered. For example, he couldn't control when his manager would make decisions or how company priorities might shift overnight, but he could control how he prepared for meetings, how he communicated with his team, and how he managed his own stress throughout the process. This shift brought an unexpected relief. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted off his shoulders. No longer did he waste energy fighting invisible battles that were beyond his reach. Instead, he learned to invest his time and effort wisely, focusing deeply on areas where he could make a difference and letting go of what was simply outside his control. And this lesson extended far beyond the office. Life, after all, is filled with situations beyond our influence, health issues, the choices other people make, sudden, unexpected disruptions. These forces can feel overwhelming or unfair, but the one thing we always retain is how we choose to respond. We can respond with frustration and resistance, or we can choose patience, resilience, and kindness, especially toward ourselves. If you find yourself overwhelmed by forces outside your control, try this approach. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what is one thing I can do right now that is within my power? It could be as simple as taking a deep breath, setting a clear boundary, or focusing on completing a small task. When you focus on those small but controllable actions, you stop scattering your energy in many directions. Instead, you begin to build steady momentum, moving forward even when the bigger picture feels uncertain. For Liam, focusing on what he could control didn't mean giving up on his goals or aspirations. It meant pursuing them with clearer eyes, steadier steps, and less wasted energy. The endless what-ifs and worst-case scenarios faded into the background as he learned to live more in the present moment. This lesson was a natural extension of his earlier learning about embracing discomfort, because once he accepted that some things were simply beyond his control, he found himself free to engage more fully and deeply with the things he could shape. This clarity gave him a new kind of confidence, not arrogance or forcefulness, but a quiet, calm assurance that he could handle whatever came next, not by trying to control the whole world, but by steering himself wisely through it. Yet even with this awareness, Liam discovered a new challenge. Change doesn't happen in a straight line. Some days felt like clear progress, other days felt like setbacks or plateaus. That made him wonder, how do you stay patient and persistent when the path forward isn't smooth or certain? When progress is slow or invisible, how do you keep going? That question sets the stage for our final lesson, a lesson about time, patience, and the deep power of steady effort. Lesson number 5, real change takes time. One of the most difficult truths Liam faced was that meaningful change doesn't happen overnight. In a world that often prizes quick results and instant gratification, patience can feel like a slow and frustrating companion. But the Master of Change makes it clear. Real transformation is a process that takes time, persistence, and steady effort. Liam had spent so long chasing immediate fixes, overnight success, rapid promotions, fast solutions to his problems, that slowing down felt almost unnatural. He wanted to see clear results, to feel progress every day. But as he embraced the earlier lessons, rugged flexibility, evolving identity, leaning into discomfort, focusing on what he could control, he began to notice something new. Change was happening, but it was subtle, sometimes invisible, often slow. This was unsettling at first. He wondered if his efforts were enough, or if he was stuck. But Brad Stulberg's words reminded him that growth is rarely linear. Just like a tree doesn't sprout fully formed overnight, personal transformation requires roots to develop deep below the surface before visible growth appears. Understanding this gave Liam a renewed perspective. He started to appreciate the small wins, the new habits he formed, the ways he responded differently to stress, the moments when he chose patience instead of frustration. These were the seeds of lasting change. This shift was not about lowering standards or giving up on his goals. Instead, it was about honoring the process, trusting the timeline, and valuing consistent effort. He learned that lasting transformation isn't about a dramatic moment of change, it's about the accumulation of small, intentional actions done over time. For anyone listening, this lesson is vital. If you're struggling with slow progress or feeling discouraged, remember that change takes time. It's not a race or a contest. It's a journey that requires patience and self-compassion. Try to focus less on the speed of your progress and more on the direction. Are you moving toward who you want to become? Are you nurturing habits and mindsets that support growth? If the answer is yes, then you're on the right path, even if the results aren't immediately visible. Liam's transformation wasn't complete by the end of the book, but it was real. He felt more grounded, more flexible, and more connected to his evolving self. He had learned to embrace discomfort, to let go of what he couldn't control, and to trust that his efforts would compound over time. Most importantly, he discovered a quiet confidence not based on perfection or certainty, but rooted in resilience and persistence. He was no longer afraid of change. Instead, he welcomed it as an essential part of life and growth. As you reflect on Liam's journey and these lessons from the master of change, remember this: the power to change lies within you. It's not about a sudden breakthrough or a perfect plan. It's about showing up day after day, leaning into the discomfort, focusing on what you can control, and trusting that real change takes time. And with that trust, you're ready to move forward, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. By the time Liam closed the final pages of The Master of Change, he wasn't the same person who first picked it up. The journey had transformed him in subtle, profound ways. He moved from feeling overwhelmed and stuck to cultivating a mindset rooted in patience, flexibility, and deep self-awareness. More importantly, he learned that transformation is not a destination, it's a lifelong practice. The lessons he absorbed showed him that change is neither quick nor linear. It's a winding path filled with discomfort, uncertainty, and moments of doubt. But within those moments lies incredible potential. The power to grow beyond old limits, to redefine identity, and to build resilience that lasts. Liam's story reminds us all, you don't have to be perfect to change. You don't need all the answers or a flawless plan. What matters most is your willingness to show up, keep moving forward despite discomfort, focus your energy on what you can control, and trust the process, even when progress feels invisible. The journey isn't easy. Sometimes it demands courage to face who you really are. Sometimes it requires patience to stay the course when results don't come fast enough. And sometimes it asks you to be kind to yourself when setbacks happen. But that's exactly what makes transformation so meaningful. As Liam embraced these truths, a quiet confidence grew within him, not loud or demanding, but a steady whisper saying, "I am capable. I am enough. I am evolving." That confidence allowed him to welcome change and discomfort as essential teachers, not threats. For you, watching this video and reflecting on Liam's journey, know this: the power to change lives within you too. It's in your daily choices, your mindset, and your commitment to growth. Whether you're just starting or somewhere in the middle of your transformation, you have what you need to move forward. Every step you take, no matter how small, matters. Every moment you choose growth over comfort, patience over frustration, and focus over distraction brings you closer to who you're becoming. And when the struggle feels real, remember Liam's story and the lessons of the Master of Change. Identity is flexible, discomfort is necessary, control is limited, and lasting growth takes time. This journey is yours. It's personal, and it's powerful. So take a deep breath, lean into the challenge, trust your process, because the Master of Change is not just a book or a concept, it's the person you are becoming. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. If these lessons resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on how you can bring them into your own life. Meaningful change begins with small steps and showing up for yourself every day. If you found value in this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to Book Play. Our mission is to turn powerful books into powerful life changes, bringing you insightful summaries and inspiring stories designed to help you grow. Don't miss future videos that can transform your mindset and guide your personal growth. Thank you for being part of this community. Until next time, keep embracing change, stay patient with yourself, and keep moving forward.